has a bit in our mouth, and he holds the reins, and he knows exactly how to use them to get us going in the direction that he wants. So God's reigning in our life, and he holds the reins. He's in control. And again, it's even when we say that it's a runaway, God has the reins. And I thought how best to express this, and I know the Lord brought it to my heart several months ago. I was talking to a lady who had came to church for a while. This was many years ago she came, and they quit coming, and I hadn't seen them for a long time, and then they showed up, and I was able to talk to her, and she said, I just felt like I should tell you why we quit coming to church here so many years ago. And I said, okay, if you want to tell me, I have a listening ear. Just tell me. And she says, well, she said, when we came to church here, it was because we had just really began serving the Lord. And she said, we felt you were so far ahead of us that you frightened us. You scared us because you were so far ahead of us. And I thought, oh boy, I really got to, I don't want anybody to be afraid of where I am in comparison to where they are. Because we're right where God wants us. If you're like a mile behind me eating my dust, it's okay. That's where God wants you to be. He'll get you caught up pretty quick. And I thought, Lord, I know that God deals with me in some, and takes me into some areas that are very hard to understand, even hard for me to understand. But I know this, that I don't want to, I've never set out to impress anybody by, what I know or what God's revealed to me or what I preach. I don't care whether I impress people or not. But it kind of bothered me when I kept thinking about this, and I thought, all right, Lord, you've given me this message on God has the reins. Now you bring it down to me so I can express this without being way ahead of, or frightening anyone with this message. And so God began to deal with me about, and he said, remember the old days when the stagecoach and, they pick up their passengers and carry precious cargo. And there was the driver and usually a man that rode along with as the shotgun rider. And I thought, yeah, I can relate to this. And he said, that's the example of how I'm going to show you that I hold the reins to everything. In fact, he's got the reins on this world. He's got the reins on the galaxy that he has created and spun off there and put out there and set it all in motion. He holds the reins to all of that. But more than that, he holds the reins to your life. And he is in control, even if you think you're out of control. He's still in control. And the Lord showed me that this example, and I know you've all seen the old westerns with the stagecoach. Come on, confess up. You've seen it on TV, or you've seen it in the movies, or you've read it in the book. You know what I'm talking about. And God said, this is what it's like. The stagecoach is on its way. It's got its precious cargo. And, usually in the movies, it carries this pretty young thing all dressed up with, her fan in her hand, and, with the dust and the sweat. And usually there's a handsome city slicker and a good-looking cowboy. And then there's the driver and the shotgun. And I could picture this. I could see it. It wasn't a vision, but I could see it in my mind. I could see this. And along comes the stagecoach going to its destination with its precious cargo. And out of the boulders and kind of the shadows comes out the bad guys. And they start chasing the stagecoach. And the driver whips the horses up. And they're blasting down the old dusty roadway. And passengers are bumping around. And the bad guys, that's like the enemy. That's like the enemy that's trying to chase us. And he picks off, you know, they always pick off the shotgun first, and he falls off, and then they pick off the driver, and he falls off, and off goes the stage with nobody at the reins. Just to go, well, then here comes the good guy. Chasing the bad guys. The bad guys disappear. And here comes the good guy to the rescue, and he rides up next to this runaway horse team, and he jumps off and jumps onto the team and gets the reins and gets up into the seat, and he controls the reins and brings the stagecoach to a stop. And good guy jumps off, and the pretty young thing gets out of the stagecoach and throws her arms around her rescuer, and how wonderful it is that he has rescued her. And God said the most precious treasure on the stagecoach, it's carrying the souls of men and women. And although we get chased by the enemy, and it seems like our life in that stagecoach just is on a runaway, you know, and usually it's headed toward the ravine or headed toward some disastrous thing. And, you know, sometimes it does go over and sometimes it doesn't. But in this case, it doesn't. The good guy that is the Lord, he comes along and he says, I'm going to show you that I hold the reins to your life. And what you think is out of control, he said, I have it under control. And you have to understand today that God knows what he's doing. I don't sometimes. I just can't figure it out. It's beyond me sometimes. I think, God, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to show me? What are you trying to release in me? Where are you trying to take me? I just don't understand. But I know this. Even when I am blinded and I cannot see what God is doing, he's got the reins of my life in his hand. And he is expertly guiding me to where he wants me to go. And at what pace that he wants me to go. And sometimes it's at breakneck speed. Sometimes it's at a nice, slow, you know, walk along the way. But I have to come to this conclusion that regardless of what it is that's happening, regardless of what it is that's driving me or chasing me, or no matter where I think I see this pathway leading me to, I have to concede God has the reins to my life.